Stanley Roberts is here, the man behind Mr. Badly TV, which once, I guess, Stanley was people behaving badly when you were in corporate news. We're both formerly TV news people, and I'm going to let you maybe start off by explaining what was people behaving badly. And actually, before you even do that, I want to make sure at the forefront people know that this is about your channel essentially getting wiped, near 100,000 subscribers. You've had to start over from the beginning, and your new YouTube channel is Mr. Badly TV. So everybody go subscribe to Mr. Badly TV. But Stanley, give us some history here. Where were you working and what were you doing with people behaving badly?
Well, first, let me go backwards and say I've been in the business for over 30 years. And I started in Salinas way back in the day. So now Mr. Badly TV, or Mr. Badly Productions, is the remake of what I used to do with a show called People Behaving Badly. It was pretty popular in the Bay Area. I worked at KRON. I started off at KRON as a cameraman. So this was way back in the day, and then they decided to switch to the VJ format, which is where I become a reporter and a reporter becomes a photographer. And so we go out on our own and we do these stories, you know, and the original concept for me was, remember, I'd already done like cop shows, like LAPD TV series. I've done a little bit of cops. So I'm used to doing stuff like that where we go out and we spotlight things going on. I had an idea. I said, instead of me being a VJ point of view, I'm going to go out and just show people doing stuff they shouldn't be doing. And for lack of a better name, can we call it People Behaving Badly? And I was told no, because, you know, we probably already had that name, it's probably already being used, but then it turns out we can use it. And that was way back when it was owned by a different ownership. We went through multiple ownership.
Give me an example of something you do for that series. Like a real life example of one of the videos.
So here's a good example. This one went viral. So I went out, and this was, sometimes my accidental stories are the ones that take virility. So I went out to the Golden Gate Bridge because they were doing some construction and showing how the drivers were, you know, behaving around the toll plaza. This one motorcyclist made a U-turn and then went down the wrong side of the road with a helmet on, but you couldn't see his face, and drove down the wrong side of the road. And I recorded him going all the way down. I tracked him all the way down. And something in my head said, he's going to come back. But I didn't think he would come back the way he came back. Dude parked 50 yards away in the Golden Gate Bridge parking lot, ran across 2 lanes of active traffic, took his helmet off, which, remember, I couldn't see his face, to tell me to get the camera out of his face.
That's awesome.
It literally ran 50 yards into a deserted area and to tell me to get the camera out of his face. And you can't make that stuff up. No. So while I'm recording him telling me and all this stuff, at the end, he makes a homophobic remark, which I have no idea why he went that way for. And while he was so busy worried about my camera, he didn't see all the other cameras at the toll plaza. So they had already called CHP because they saw an altercation going on at the bridge right there. So they bring CHP out. They check the guy out. Turns out he doesn't have a driver's license to operate a motorcycle. He doesn't have insurance or registration. So if he had just kept it moving, he would have had a great day. Instead of that, he decided to, they towed his car and he had to walk home, and he lost his job for the Parks Department, U.S. Parks Department. It went viral. It was 76 million views, I believe, at one point.
Wow.
It was huge. And then one more, which really was, some people call epic. It was a guy who I nicknamed Elmo Shirt Guy. He was in the carpool lane illegally. He got pulled over, and instead of him saying, "Oh, you know what, I made a mistake," he decided to berate me on camera about how, you know, I'm old, I'm fat, and I shouldn't be on TV. 1-800 chubby butt. Yeah, so that actually made it to Jimmy Kimmel's show.
Oh.
So I've been doing stories that would have virility. Remember the story of, and to give you an idea, it's not always bad behavior that gets highlighted. I was doing an illegal dumping story, and you remember the story with Carlos Santana, where his lost bandmate was found around Christmas a few years back?
So I think I must have slept through that one. No,
it was a huge story on CNN, and so I found this guy digging through the trash. I asked him who he was. He said he used to be a bandmate for Carlos Santana. Turns out that he had went to prison back during Woodstock, and he never made it. So the band blew up, and Carlos had been looking for him. Didn't know where he was. I found him, put him on TV, and they had they got reunited just before Christmas.
That's
it was
crazy.
called a Christmas miracle.
So so this, I should hope people understand, you brought some big views for your station.
Yeah.
And you were very popular. So popular that, look, I don't know many people that have the local paper writing about them when they leave, and then when their station comes after them for videos. And you've had multiple articles written about you because the viewers loved you. They loved seeing your work. They loved your personality. And so you were very valuable for the station. Maybe we could start with, why did you leave? Why did you want to leave KRON?
So I guess you can call it a snowball effect. So as I got more popular, I decided to bring on try to get an agent so that I can get some reputation, because I was never under a contract. So, in news, they have something called a personal services contract. Once you fill that out, you basically sign away all your rights to everything you've ever done. So I never had a personal services contract since I've been there, ever. We were under a union contract, but there was no wording. And when you write a contract, it's all done by what the words say. And we all know that. It's just like with laws. If there's no wording, it doesn't exist. Mm-hmm. So basically, I hired an agent. Her name was Dana Adams, and she went and contacted him and said, "Hey, I'm representing Stanley Roberts. He's having a hard time living here in the Bay because he's grossly underpaid. I mean, we have people that were making $300,000-$400,000 a year, and I was making the minimum that they allowed for our contract, which was in the Bay Area. A minimum is really the minimum." Their response to her was, "I have zero worth to them. I'm just a VJ, nothing more. So therefore, I don't deserve any more money," even though the numbers said differently. So that's where we were.
Stanley, can I interrupt you for a quick second just to kind of explain to people who may not quite understand the transition that you're talking about? In TV news, it used to be you had 2-person crews all the time. You had a photographer and a reporter.
2 or 3.
Or 3, yeah, and an engineer, somebody running the live truck.
Yes.
And then over time, I did a video about that reporter. I think at the time she was in South Carolina, now she's in Pittsburgh. She didn't respond to my request for her to come on the channel. I think after probably considering that she would never work in TV news again. Maybe, I don't know, because I really ripped the company apart when I saw that she was hit by a car doing a live shot by herself at like 11 o'clock at night in the dark in a construction zone. And now it's, instead of 3 people where you have somebody running the live truck and the photographer paying attention to the surroundings with the camera, and then the reporter paying attention to the photographer's back and what he or she isn't seeing. Now you have one person doing everything. And the crazy part that I never really understood was these companies somehow look down on that person who's doing 3 jobs and pay you less than the anchor, who in some cases is writing a few lines and doing their makeup and hair and going on set, or even the reporter who is not doing what you like the VJ or the MMJ job that I used to do that most of the time. I was a one-man band, as they called it. Of course, now that's sexist, so now they call it what is it called? Multimedia journalist.
Well, they call it that, but it's one-man band. It's basically,
I don't care. You can't.
What we used to do in small markets became a big market thing.
Right, exactly. And that's just one of the reasons of the demise of journalism in local news, especially. But it has translated into some of the national and or at least like big markets. I had a friend who was working for NBC in New York, and he was shooting a lot of his own video. I can't even imagine doing that. So how do you even get your facts right? How do you keep your sanity together? But like you're explaining that's how crazy these corporate stations are. Like they'll hire somebody to do 18 jobs, and yet they look on you as if you're the blue collar worker.
Yes.
And you don't deserve to have any more money. So I just wanted to give people the sense of how just upside down that is, just so that they understand how that affects journalism.
Exactly. And that has a huge effect. And out here in the Bay Area, the problem was that journalists out there by themselves were getting robbed at gunpoint and beat up. And they would say, well, if you think it's dangerous, call us and we'll send you security. Well, it's already dangerous. We're going to wait for an hour for security to show up. Right. Hey, wait, before you beat me up, could you wait for my security guard to get here? He'll be here in about an hour.
Yeah. Good point. Yeah, I had friends who came to Seattle. I don't know why they chose Seattle from the Bay Area because they were sick of getting their cameras stolen out of the car. One of my friends got assaulted while on the job. So yeah, everybody was trying to get out of the Bay Area.
I was assaulted multiple times, spit on, assaulted. I've had it happen. I'm by myself, and it's just me.
Yeah. Okay, so go back to where you were. So they weren't going to help you out with any extra
Well, they
change to
told me if I
survive.
wanted to survive in the Bay Area, that I should move to Tracy and commute in. That way, I can save money. Now, keep in mind,
Thanks for the advice.
yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. Oh wow, so I should drive further away to
Right.
save money. So I'll be in the traffic for 4 hours because I know that Tracy is a long way away. And so
Yeah.
basically, my mental health would go down the tube just so I can drive to Arizona. I mean, Arizona. I've read somebody's comment, Arizona, it popped in my head. So I can drive from Tracy to San Francisco and do the stories. That was a no for me. So I ended up
Uh-huh.
renting a room so that I can afford, because I had
That's
2 kids. So I rented a room. And when my daughter would come visit, she would have to sleep on the couch in the room that I rented so that she can spend time with me. And and that's where we were at that time. And at that point, I realized that maybe I should start seeing who else is interested. But this is where it gets really strange. I started to notice that when I got some traction, it seemed like it would just dissolve with no ifs, ands, or buts. And
uh-huh.
then one day, here's something that happened really quickly. I was out shooting a story, and the guy comes to me and he says to me, "Hey, what are you doing here?" I said, "What do you mean?" He says, "You're on vacation." I'm like, "No, I'm not. It's October. I don't take vacation until December." Well, you sent me an email saying you're going to be on vacation and that you couldn't do the fly along with with one of the jets for Fleet Week. And I said, "No, I didn't." He goes, "Yeah," and he showed it to me. And apparently, someone's intercepting my emails and responding to other people as me at the
Oh,
station.
really?
And when I asked them about it, "Oh, well, you're just using your mind. You're not." I'm like, "No, I saw the email." And here's a really good one. I found out through, I guess they intercepted a bunch of emails, but forgot to intercept one from True TV. True TV wanted to talk to me about maybe doing a national show. But when I saw the final email, it had already been months and months and months, and they lost interest.
Your station sounds really corrupt. Uh Malrus says Stanley Roberts is an American hero. I worked graveyard shift at KGO and Stanley was the best one there. So you
Thank
have
you.
friends in the chat. Um okay, well okay, so you're like I'm out of here. And you had
Well, it wasn't even that. It wasn't I'm out
okay.
of here. And so, just for the record, people thought, "Oh, he must have asked for $1 million." No, I asked for like
No.
60 grand more, just so it can, I would cover the rent for renting an apartment and still have enough money to pay bills.
Mhm.
And it wasn't I'm out of here because my agent said, "Just quit, just walk away." And I decided to be Mr. Do the right thing and said, "No, I have to give them ample time. I can't just quit and walk away. That's not how you do things. And I'm always following the rules. And whenever I follow the rules, I get, I realize now that when people who break the rules get away with stuff, I try to follow the rules and I end up being, uh, I don't know for a better word. It's, you know what I'm
It's
saying.
yeah, no, I have a couple of friends still in the business who it's kind of like an abusive relationship and they not that I'm saying it is wrong to stick by your values regardless of circumstance. I agree with that. I think, being a professional regardless and not necessarily just returning kind for kind. I think that's the right way to go. That said, I do think a lot of people in our old profession they give more than the station is willing to give, thinking that they're doing the right thing, when I think in a
Right.
lot of cases they're being codependent. And it's like,
Right.
hey, it's okay for you to run your business the way you want to run your business. They're not gonna shudder at running their business if it affects you negatively. They don't care. So yeah, I mean, I don't fault you for like, hey, I want to be a professional regardless, but I do think sometimes we do more than that. We sort of bend over backwards to make sure that they're okay when
Yeah,
it's
exactly.
unnecessary, and they would certainly not do it for us.
And so it went down the line to where, I was going back and forth with this TV station in Arizona. And, he said, "Hey, I don't want this to be one of those cases where you're just trying to get more money." And I said, "No, I literally want to feel like I'm valued. And I'm not feeling like I'm valued based on the information that I heard and what they said." So
Uh-huh.
then I said, "Okay, I'm going to go with you guys." And then I come back one day and they go, "Hey, just to let you know, yeah, we trademarked the name. So I guess you can't leave." This was walking down the hallway because they never had anything in writing. It was always verbal. So there
Mhm.
was no paper trail of what they said to me. It was always in writing. I mean, always, excuse me, it was always verbal. And I said to him, the name doesn't define who I am. It's the work I do. So, I'm sorry. I'm not going to stick around just because you trademarked the name. I'll come up with a different name. So I signed a deal with Arizona, and then apparently they told Arizona that, and I signed it under the pretext that I had 88,000 YouTube subscribers, which brings us back to where we're trying to get to, and that I can, use that to keep posting my YouTube stuff on there. And they agreed 100%. This is great. We love it. We love the exposure. We go with it. Now, keep in mind, that was my YouTube channel that I created that had my own stuff, including my kids' stuff on it as she was growing up. So it wasn't like they issued a channel and then I was using it. It was my own personal channel. And I never posted the videos to make money. They were just posted so that people can see the videos. It wasn't a revenue generator. It was just, hey, this is what I did today. Hope you enjoy it. Thank you. And I end up getting followers from all over the country and all over the world.
Mm-hmm.
And so what they said to me was they put me in the office and they said, hey, so I understand you're leaving, but we want you to give us your YouTube channel. And I said, I'm not giving you my YouTube channel. That's not going to happen. And it's my YouTube. Well, then we want you to delete all the videos once you leave, before you leave. And I said, okay, but you took my laptop. So the only access I have to delete the videos is when I get another laptop. So give me a chance to get another laptop, which be a couple days. I get to Arizona, I'll get a laptop. I'll go back and I'll start. Because it's a process. You just can't do it on the phone. It takes forever. You'll be there forever trying to do it on the phone. And I'm trying to move. So I drove from, I left on a Friday. I went to Monterey to spend a night at a friend's house before I drove to LA because I'm going to make little trips. And I get to Monterey and I go to sleep on Saturday and everything is fine. I wake up Sunday morning and the first thing I read is, hey, where's your YouTube channel? And I'm thinking, I don't know, maybe it's just a glitch in YouTube. Turns out it had been completely erased. No information as to where it came from, who erased it. Well, we know it was YouTube, but there was no details of, they just said you violated multiple copyrights with your channel. And so your whole channel has been deleted.
All of a sudden,
there was no, and you know how they tell you you can appeal it?
Mm-hmm.
Well, you can only appeal it if you have a link to what you're appealing.
Right.
What they did was wipe the entire channel. So there were no links. There was no access to a link. The links didn't even exist. And there was no information as to where the copyright violation came from. So I was surprised that there was because I get those every now and then where someone will falsely put a copyright violation and I go back and fight it because KRON would never fight a copyright violation whenever it came on my page. They they didn't care if someone did a copyright violation. I would have to do it myself. And I would say, I created the video. So therefore they're using my stuff without my permission. So I'm used to the process. I'm not used to a process where it was completely just unequivocally wiped out. 88,000 subscribers, just like the end game. I think it's from the Avengers where the guy snaps his finger and everything gets erased. And there was no information as to who did it until I started getting phone calls from different newspapers. And I said, I have no idea. And then finally.
That's so crazy. I have to butt in again. Like that just goes to show the influence that you had and the following you had, that you would get calls from papers about your YouTube channel. Really?
Yeah. And I'm used to being called by the media because doing my segment is crazy in itself because no one knew that I did everything myself. They thought I had a crew of people, but they also would do stuff like, they would say stuff to me like, hey, have your crew come out here and fix something. I'm like, there's no crew, it's just me. I wrote it, shot it, edited it, and I stayed over late without being paid to make sure it made it on YouTube. So, and I've even had stuff where people would put in bounties on me. I had a $100,000 bounty put out on me. If you Google Stanley Roberts $100,000 bounty, it will show up. A bounty because I did a story that the Biceless didn't like. I had people that, those cryptic letters that you get that's like cut out of a newspaper.
Yeah, oh yeah.
Do this again, we're going to kill you and your whole family. I would get those kind of letters and the police would be like, okay, we believe this to be a legit threat. So we want you to legit change the way you do things. And so I had to actually, now I'm like super paranoid. I don't trust anybody. I drive and I'm looking, if your lights are behind me for too long, I'll make a U-turn to see if you make a U-turn too.
Yeah.
Because legit people are coming after me.
Wow. Yeah, and that in and of itself, yes, it shows how popular they are. Mike says Stanley Roberts was the main reason anyone watched KRON. So, yeah, all right. So my next question for you is, I know people might say, and maybe they would argue, hey, dude, you were working on the clock for us. And so we own the material. I mean, just because, you shot it and everything, you were our employee and you were using our gear. So it's our stuff.
That's our stuff.
But first, if you all love Stanley, you should send him some AllisonWinePromo.com. Except for I don't even know if Stanley drinks wine. Do you drink wine,
I do.
Stanley?
Okay. I do. I love a good Chianti with some flava beans.
Okay, Chianti is kind of like Malbec a little bit. It's a little drier than a Malbec, but I call Malbecs the poor man's Pinot Noir, except for they're more robust. And if you go to AllisonWinePromo.com, you get these really, honestly, they're very unique wines. They come from Argentina and high altitude remote regions. They're very unique. The reason I even have them as a sponsor is because I was talking about how much I love high altitude Malbecs, and they actually saw me talking about it on actually Viva and Barnes had me on once. I was talking about that because Barnes asked me my favorite wine. And so these legitimately are my favorite wines. And you get a good deal on them. You get 50% off the wine itself and 50% off shipping. And like I said, they're from small operations, and you can't get them at the grocery store. Plus, why would you want to? So buy them for yourself, and you can drink them while you're watching all of Stanley's videos, or you can send some to Stanley and help him feel a little bit better about the fact that his entire channel got wiped out. Anyway, you can also get some coffee. Are you a coffee drinker, Stanley? You must be.
So I like diesel fuel. So I like I'm not gonna say the name because I'm not being sponsored to say a name, but go ahead.
You can say who you like.
I love Phil's coffee.
Bill?
Phil's is a Bay Area coffee. It's a local brand, but people call it diesel fuel, and it's really good. I love it. And really also I'm an espresso drinker.
Oh yeah, me too, dude. I love espresso. In fact,
no, not espresso.
Oh,
Nespresso.
Nespresso. Oh, so like, okay, I gotcha. You mean the stuff that you just pour some water in and it dissolves in there?
No, you get these. Well, no, it's really fancy, smancy, and
it is okay. Because maybe I'm thinking of the cheap kind.
Yeah, I have the frother. It's George Clooney pushes it all the time. And
oh, okay. Yeah, you have one of those.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
I'm what do you call it? I'm a bougie.
You're highbrow. Oh, you got your pinky up when you're drinking your coffee. You're a snob.
Oh, by the way, have you seen Mr. Badley? He's everywhere.
Here, I'll let you promote right now. See, he's got all of his
Mr. Badley. And these shirts, if you go to my Linktree page, you can see those shirts. They're not cheap because it's actually good material and it's embroidered. So it's all there. And I'm trying to, I'm building a brand from the ground up all over again.
Yeah. And the link for your Linktree is in the YouTube video description. I got to add it to the other sites after this. But what give everybody just real fast, read it out. What's the site for the merch?
Go to Linktree Linktree /behave. Let me see.
Here, I'll put. You know what? I can put it up in the banner so everybody can see it right now. Hang on one second. Let me just.
There we go. Thank you, because I'm trying to read and talk, and I can't chew gum and walk at the same time. I just stumble. I
feel your pain. Here, this is it.
There we go.
Yeah, linktr.ee/Mr. Badley TV. So that's where you can go to support Stanley directly, and you can find the link to his merch. If you want to go to twinenginecoffee.com as well, you can do that. And these are my favorite coffees. These come from Nicaragua. They're USDA certified organic. They're also high altitude. You get 10% off your first order. If you want to talk about diesel fuel, I would say this is what I drink in the morning. I've heard from people this is one of their favorites. It's the darkest roast that they have, or one of the darkest roasts. The guy that created this company used to write about cigars in Cuba, and so it's a lot like a deep espresso flavor. It's really good. I have this most mornings. I'm actually drinking it right now. Say that again, Stanley.
I just read something. Did Stanley do the one SF City employee that was supposed to clean parks, but all they did was go to bars and stuff all day? Yeah, that was another one of my big stories where dude was supposed to be, he didn't clean parks, he cleaned the sewers, and he legit didn't do any work. He just went to bars and clubs and everything else all day long in full uniform. And I caught him sleeping in his truck. And I to this day, I wish I had to throw my business card inside the truck when he was sitting there, because that would have been epic. but I didn't. I was just, you know, I got him in sleeping and stood right next to him while he was knocked out.
I'm trying to find that. Was that a recent comment?
That's a long time ago. And
No,
it was,
I'm trying to find the comment that somebody, you were
oh, it
watching
just
the
came
comment.
up. It's 12:43, cold water.
12:43,
Yeah.
cold water. All right, I'm looking for it.
Hey, somebody just gave you $20, or did they give it
I
to
know,
me?
I'm gonna read that. Oh, this is it right here. Yeah, did Stanley do that one? Okay.
That was me. It's a little bit. They have it. It wasn't parks. He was supposed to clean the sewers, and ironically, his own employees ratted him out. And so
that's pretty bad.
Yeah.
Okay. Never heard of Stanley before from Agent Orange, but thanks to you, Allison, I have now. I'll be searching for him wherever he's posting content. Okay, well, since you brought that up, we got to make sure that if you're just tuning in, you go to Mr. Badley TV. This is the YouTube channel that Stanley has created after his original channel got wiped due to. Are we confirmed on this one? And thank you for the super chat, Agent Orange. Is this confirmed that they were the ones behind it? The newsroom was behind it, or is this still a rumor?
No. Here's where it got interesting. So no one took responsibility for it. It was just a magical wipe that just came out of nowhere. And then after probing and prodding, Nexstar, someone posted a thing and said it came from Nexstar. And so but my understanding is that Nexstar was unaware that this had taken place and were pretty upset that they did this. But it was already too late, and you can't unring a bell, and no one decided to go backwards. But then this is where the vindictiveness comes into the whole play. And when you're ready for that part, that's going to be a little bit mind-blowing.
So okay, can you go back to the question I was asking about? All right, so we don't really. So you're saying, okay, they haven't necessarily claimed.
No, they did finally.
No, they did. Okay. Eventually.
Just on YouTube, not in writing.
I see. So let's go back to that question of ownership. If they were to argue that you were doing these videos on the clock for them and using their gear and everything, why don't they own the material?
And that makes absolutely good sense. You're right. In a normal situation, that would be the case. So now let's rewind to when it was owned by Media General. And I was dragged into the office and handed and served legal papers. The legal papers clearly stated that they wanted me to sign over the rights to everything I've done for people behaving badly and any intellectual property. So they served me with papers. They told me to, sign this, and then they were going to, blah, blah, blah. So if they owned the content, why would they have me sign over a document or multiple page documents giving them access to it? So what, instead of me just going, okay, I'll sign it, because in my mind, I'm like, I don't really, at this point, I don't really care anymore, even though I was told over and over again it belonged to me. I took it to an attorney, and this attorney actually wrote the book on intellectual properties as it relates to television and things like that. He wrote a book. I'm not making this up. I didn't know that when I found him. I just went to him because, I said, hey, this is what's going on. And he says, okay, well, I'll take a look at it. And so then he reached out to me and says, so I just sent them a letter and asking them to, and I read the letter, and it said clearly, hey, I understand you want the IP for everything Stanley has, intellectual property. Can you show me where he has a contract with you guys? If you can produce a contract signed by Stanley Roberts saying that he was under contract with you guys, then clearly everything is yours. All you have to do is produce the contract. Well, they went silent. They never produced a contract. And at that point, it went on and nothing happened. And then the GM got transferred to another company. So she was gone. And then they decided, well, we're going to sell it to Nexstar. Now, before we get too deep into that one, so if you owned something already, why would you have someone sign ownership over to you?
Yeah, no, you're right. You wouldn't. That would make total sense. But in your case, you're saying essentially, what is the legal recourse in this? You're having a hard time or an impossible time getting a hold of YouTube because you don't have a channel to argue, and that's kind of how the people who I've had on who've had their channels wiped. That's just how it is. You can't even appeal it unless you go to Twitter, I guess, and you have a decent enough following to.
You got to have a huge following on Twitter, and on my Twitter, I'm at 20, and I'm on Twitter as Stanley Roberts TV. Ironically, when I knew I was leaving, my old username on Twitter was Stanley Roberts KRON 4, right?
Mm-hmm. Oh.
Twitter called me. Someone from Twitter called me and said, "Hey, I know you're leaving KRON. Do you want to change your name? Because normally we don't change your name. If you change it, you lose your blue check mark. But we'll change it for you.
That's what happened to me.
We'll change it for you if you give us." And I said, "Well, what names do you have available?" And they said Stanley Roberts. And I go, "Are you kidding me? Well, that's a no-brainer. Of course I want to be Stanley Roberts." So that's why my Twitter says Stanley Roberts. My old one was Stanley Roberts New KRON 4. And now the one that I got in 2018 was just Stanley Roberts, and I still have the check mark. So awesome. I thank Twitter for that. So of all things Twitter have done that people hate, I thank them for that, because they could have just said, "Hey, you're on your own."
Right. Yeah, I lost my blue check mark when I changed my name and when I left. And I just haven't had the gumption to really fight to try to get it back. But it is kind of crazy that's what causes you to lose your blue check mark. It's actually crazier that I even had a blue check mark in the first place, only because my corporate news station made some kind of move to get all of us verified. They did it for me. So
well, it's good that I'm verified, because I've had people literally make fake accounts with my name to get to ANLIEY. So the I looks like an L, and then they would make a fake looking check mark next to it and say, "Oh, I need this, money's for this next YZ," and people would just send the money. So that was crazy to me, and the whole thing in a nutshell, that was nuts.
So is this this is you, right?
That is me, yes.
Okay. All right, so everybody can go follow you on Twitter too. Okay, so the channel's gone, and you've explained why legally you feel like you own the material and it was unfairly and illegally taken away. How has that affected you?
Well, first of all, according to the attorney, he said that in California, unlike other states, the inventor is the owner of the property or intellectual property, unless there was a contract written. So that's what his argument was. I don't know the law. I was only going by what he said, and he wrote the book on it. So, he said clearly they didn't respond. So so what happened after that was that the new owners took over, and they were going to put it for sale. Let me put it this way. So now keep in mind, I'm the biggest, quote unquote, biggest talent they have on the KRON, right? So they literally went and said, "We're going to sell this to Nexstar. So we're going to make a reel to show them why they should buy our new station." I saw the reel. I wasn't even in the reel at all. There was no mention of people behaving badly in the reel when it was trying to sell the station. So they already knew that they have no rights to anything, because they didn't even include it. If you have something that's that big, you would have that in the reel, because it would be a selling point. If you have a house with a 200 acres, you're not going to leave out the 200 acres. You're going to be like, "Hey, this house has 200 acres. You would be like, you wouldn't be like, "Oh no, don't worry about the land behind it. That's nothing to do with it."
Right.
So basically they took me as being the 200 acres and said he doesn't exist. He's not even part of the package until I decided to leave and I became part of the package.
Yeah. Isn't that interesting? That's interesting. And
I was born at night, just not last night.
Yeah. Well, and they're similar with my old ownership company. I know at least one person who went through something similar, where it was like, you're not paying me what I want. And they're right. I mean, the station, when they hire you, says we're only going to give you this or whatever. And so you have the right to counter negotiate. It's just business. It's not personal. And they don't want to give it to you, and you go shop around, or you want to go somewhere else. And then all of a sudden the claws come out. They're like, "Oh no, now we really need you."
Except I was hired as a photographer in the very beginning in 1998.
Yeah.
I was hired as a cameraman.
And that probably meant you started out with even lower salary.
Oh yeah, it was.
Yeah, and then they weren't jumping to give you what you should get as.
They would offer 0.1% raises.
Oh my gosh.
And I was a union rep, so I had to fight for. They go, "Well, we'll give you 0.1," and then when we fight for 2 days, "Oh, we'll give you 0.2." And I'm trying to negotiate for people that work there. I want them to feed their families.
Yeah.
And the Bay Area is very expensive.
You were an IATSE, I guess.
Okay, here's where it gets even stranger. We were
Oh,
IBEW,
what's that?
International Brotherhood of Electrical Workers.
Oh, really?
They had a Hollywood division that was technically for just technicians. And all of a sudden we become a VJ, and now we had to create a whole new contract, union contract, to include doing our own work.
Did you call it Boo?
Boo?
Yeah, BEW, Boo.
IBEW.
Oh, IBEW. Okay,
International Brotherhood of Electrical Workers. The same people that the same union that comes to your house when your lights go out for PG&E.
So that must be why, because you're in the California market. Is that why?
Well, no, because I was a technician.
Oh, okay.
So
I see.
And then I became a photographer, which they
You
had
really
to write
worked
a
your
whole
way up.
contract for that.
You really worked your way up.
I started in the bottom, as you say. I worked in Salinas. I walked in and tried to get a job as a weatherman, and instead I was handed a broom and a dustpan and said, "Okay, clean the floors, and we'll see where you go from there." And I taught myself how to shoot. I taught myself how to edit.
Wow.
And got my first job in LA after the first year because a reporter, an anchor named Christy Wild, wrote me this stellar recommendation. I went to KTTV in LA and gave them the letter, and they said, "Okay, you can start as a freelancer."
Wow. So yeah, it's not usually how a lot of people make it to the position that you're in. So you really slugged it out and worked really hard to get to where you were, which has got to make the fall a lot harder because nothing was just like handed to you. You created a lot of this stuff on your own. And so I guess, could you kind of update people, like what's the last couple of years been like for you since all this happened?
So I was working in Arizona, and ironically, when I got the job in Arizona, this KRON management called the management in Arizona and said, "If you use the words people, behaving, or badly in any of your segments, we will sue you." So they had to create a whole new name. And the first idea they had was, "That ain't right." But then they argued there that, "Oh, well, that's racist, because if you got a black person saying that ain't right, then that ain't, we can't use that." So they wouldn't take "that ain't right." So that went out the door. I'm like, okay. But then, it's like, I didn't know that was even a racist thing, saying "that ain't right." So, okay. So we got rid of that one. And then they couldn't come up with other names. And one day I was sitting in there with the news director. I said, "Hey, how about Caught Misbehaving?" And he goes, "I like it." So that's where the name came from. And then we started doing that. And I was now in KRON, I was doing a segment every single day. In Arizona, they wanted me to do one 3 times a week. So I would do a story, and or if there was something special, it would be 4 times. So it gave me a chance to go work on the stories and not just go out there and stand on the corner and find something every day, which was stressful. But I did that and I enjoyed it. And then we had COVID, and COVID changed everything. So that's where we ended up at. And then I decided that while this was going on, I was going to create Mr. Badly Productions.
Mm-hmm.
I had a GoFundMe and trying to get so I can raise money for equipment, and people helped out, and I brought some equipment. But that money didn't. Equipment is very expensive. I mean, cards are $600 for high quality video cards, but it was enough to get me to buy some gear and start doing things. And so I knew. Now, part of the deal was that they ended my contract early because they had an out, and the out was, "We're not going to have you out there looking at people with COVID going on. So, we'll give you the rights to everything." Unlike KRON, they gave me the rights to the name and the artwork. And so Caught Misbehaving was what I was doing. Mr. Badly was something I can't wait on my own. And the icon you see here was the artwork for the Arizona show Caught Misbehaving. It was great. I loved it. It was fun. I started making new fans out there as well. And I still have fans in Arizona. And I thank them. If they're here now, thank you very much. But then,
and you're back in the Bay Area now?
I'm back in the Bay, but the old news director actually called my news director in Arizona at least 3 times and told them that I was still using my old footage, and that if I didn't stop using it, they were going to sue the station, which wasn't true. I told my news director, "I don't have time to show old videos. I'm too busy trying to learn your new system and editing," because they went from one style of editing to a different style. And he goes, "Well, they just called me. I had to tell you that." I'm like, wow, well, they're clearly trying to get me fired. Again, they're still working on it, which I thought maybe I'm just losing my mind. You know how you think you're losing your mind? I thought
The
that a
worst is
few
when you
times.
know you're losing your mind, like me.
Yeah. So yeah, exactly. So then I decided, okay, since I'm going to start doing stuff on my own again, I'm going to go back to the Bay Area because part of the deal was that I could not compete against them in Arizona. And in Arizona, unlike any other part of the country, the stations in Arizona and Phoenix basically covered most of Arizona except for Tucson. So I was literally in like 10 different stations for that one broadcast. So I couldn't do anything in Arizona. So I would fly back and forth. But then I started to notice something that was even stranger. So when I would say, hey, I got some new stuff I'm going to shoot, put it out there, you guys. And all of a sudden it would be, we're having a marathon of people behaving badly segments. Now, you've been a journalist for how long?
I was in TV news as a reporter for 12 years, and I produced for a year before that.
So when a reporter leaves a station, what happens? When they leave a
Did- well,
station, what happens to
in
all
what
their,
way?
huh?
In what way? What do you mean? What
If
happens
I
to
leave a
what?
station, if you left the station, King, would they still have you up on their website?
No, they take me down.
They'd wipe you around right away before
Yeah,
you even
really
ink
fast.
dry.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
I was up there for 3 years.
No.
My page stayed active for 3 years, and they made a Roku page with a people behaving badly version. They made a TikTok with people behaving badly. They made all these different pages.
That seems like that would be illegal.
And they literally would have a marathon every time I tried to put out new videos, to the point where even the public said, "Oh my God, are you guys really like flooding the market every time he tries to do a new video?" That's what they were doing, and people told me, "Oh, you're crazy. That's not true." But it was, the proof was in the pudding. You see now, hey, I've got this new video coming out. Oh, by the way, we're having a people behaving badly marathon.
Soon they're gonna do what Star Wars did with Princess Leia, and they're just gonna have see what's the technology where they just make it look like you're still alive and they
Yeah.
put you in the
So
movie.
yeah, so they took the video was up for 3 years. The guy who was targeting me got fired for other reasons, and that's when it went down. That's when they took the videos down, and the page doesn't exist anymore.
So somebody was on Rumble saying maybe even if they claim they own the content, they shouldn't have been able to wipe your entire channel. But folks should understand that YouTube has this 3 strikes rule. So whether it's copyright or misinformation, once you get enough, I guess it's technically 4 strikes because you get a warning first, and then you have 3 strikes after that. You'll be suspended 1 week, and then 2 weeks and 3 weeks. But you have no recourse after that. There's no way really to argue other than to find something like a Twitter or another platform, or maybe you have a connection to them. But it's very difficult unless you've got a lot of people that are willing to retweet and go after them. And I don't know. Now that they've basically made the case for themselves as an extension of corporate news, which the CEO Susan Wojcicki has basically said, we're promoting corporate news over the little guy as an authoritative source, even though they get stuff wrong all the time. I don't know how you would win that battle, because they're going to probably, in my opinion, they may protect their connections with the corporation over you.
No, of
You're
course.
just one guy.
And I'm just a little guy. I'm just a guy. I don't have a million followers. I mean, it literally took me 12 years to get the 88,000 that I had. 12 years to get to that number. And I was like, oh my God, I'm going to hit 100,000 at some point. And I'm like, to me, that would have been, this is incredible. Now, keep in mind, I never monetized any videos on that channel. It was never monetized, even though YouTube asked me over and over again to monetize his channel, because I could have made 134,000 a year just off the amount of traffic from that channel alone. But it wasn't about the money. It was about giving. My segments weren't about bad behavior. They were about explaining to the public, if you do this, this is what could happen to you. Although some people took it as, oh my God, you're calling people bad behavior, blah, 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 blah. And that's all they got stuck on. But it's the last one I did on Mr. Badley, which was called Cell Phones Galore, was about the rules of having a cell phone. And if you get caught, how not to get caught, number one, and how people are trying to avoid getting caught. And I'm working on another part of it, which says, what the consequences or the penalties will be for that. So I literally studied the vehicle code and rode with law enforcement as they wrote tickets so that I can educate the public on, hey, if you do this, these are the consequences.
Yeah. So I guess big picture, since I talk a lot about censorship and I guess influence that corporate news has over like what you're able to see, what do you think is the takeaway for people here about like what it's like, I guess, to be someone like you who has got an entrepreneurial spirit? You're trying to make it on your own now, having come from corporate news. I guess what's the takeaway for the viewer? How should they think through this
Well,
as far as like understanding better that situation?
well, hopefully people will take the takeaway. I think is that number one, don't ever stop trying. And I always say this, and I've been saying it my whole life. You're going to get a lot of no's in life. You only need one yes. Now, what you do with that yes and how you deal with that yes is what will make a difference, will make or break you. So no matter what I've been through and how hard it's been, and to give you an idea, I had a stroke 7 years ago. And it's called a cryptogenic stroke. In other words, they had no cause for it. They didn't know why I had a stroke other than stress. So it wasn't cholesterol. It wasn't anything else. It was just, stress, too much stuff going on. So don't give up. I mean, if you're trying to be an entrepreneur, but also one of the problems that we have nowadays is that these big giant platforms make money off of your personal information. We all know that's a fact. If you don't know that, then you're learning it now. So you get stuff for free, and they give stuff out for free. So everybody thinks, well, if it's free from XYZ, then why can't everything be free? But everything cannot be free because people who are behind these things, like you or me, we have bills that we have to pay. The bills don't go away. Matter of fact, the bills seem to know when you get paid because the minute you get some money, they show up.
Right.
It's like they stand in the bushes going, okay, wait till you get that check. Just wait. Okay, you got it. And then boom, the bills show up. And it just happened to be like $1 less than what you just got.
Yeah, that's so funny. Hey, one thing I wanted to ask you about too, just a follow up before we wrap this. In this article, they talk about how, and you mentioned this, how you said you were going to delete the videos from your channel,
Yes,
but they were impatient. So do you think that if you had done that right away, you'd still have your channel, and that's really what this is about?
I think that they were mad because I did not give them my channel, and they wanted it because they were going to launch something they have now called KRON on, and it would have been utilizing YouTube and utilizing what they have to get more viewers. So if you automatically have 88,000 viewers, that's a big shot in the arm. That's a huge shot in the arm. So literally, they deleted my channel in less than 48 hours. I left on Friday. It was deleted Sunday morning, overnight, or maybe Saturday night. I don't even know. So there wasn't even a conversation like, hey, if you don't do this right away, we're going to delete. We're going to make. We never had that conversation. It was just, hey. And from what I understand, so this is what I found out later was that the news director had a conversation with the person who ran their internet department and said, hey, what do we do? And they said, well, I got a friend at YouTube. I could make some phone calls, and then boom, there it goes.
It's curious because I've had copyright strikes before, and I always wondered if it was just the AI that was picking up on it, because every time I've appealed, I've won the appeal. Like, I don't know if they send it to NBC or whatever, and they're like, yeah, it's not worth fighting her, so we're not going to pursue this. But I just wasn't sure how the copyright strike happens. Other than music, I think that it is AI, but I don't know. I mean, maybe it could be both.
So before we go, how much time do we have here? Because I got to tell you this one story, which is important.
Go ahead.
So when I was trying to do this on my own, there was an event where an Amazon worker struck a person because she was mad, and it was video. Now, the guy who shot the video got off his cameras where he lives at. I used to use his videos a long time ago, so we knew each other. When I saw the video, I called him and said, hey, I saw the video you had online. Can I get a copy of it, the same exact video? He said, oh, sure, Stanley, anything for you. He said, I didn't know you were in a KRON anymore. If I had known that, I would have just given it to you first. I said, don't worry about it. Just give it to me. I'll write something. So I took the video, the exact same video that everybody else had, KRON had, and made my own little story about it. And I posted it. And within an hour after posting the story, I get a notice from YouTube that my video violated their terms of service because it was violent. And it wasn't violent. It was a story. It was a news story.
Yeah.
Now, the same video was on YouTube on other news channels, but mine had violated the terms of service.
Oh, yeah.
So I appealed it. And they go, and normally it takes a few days for appeals. 3 hours later, they write back and go, oh, yeah, we made a mistake. You're right. Your video shouldn't be taken down. However, you cannot monetize it because it's still too violent, even though it wasn't too violent. And in the case on my YouTube channel, I did a story called Gotham by the Bay. Somebody paid me to do this thing. And I did 4 separate segments of, the drug use in San Francisco, how bad it is. And I posted all 4, and it was like boom, 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 boom. And then I said, oh, let's make it one big one. So that way they can all see it all at once. They don't have to keep going back and forth for the videos. YouTube made the one that was long. Now, nothing changed other than putting them together. So that was too graphic, and they demonetized it. But the other 4 they left up. But it's been shadow banned because the video only has 6,500 views, and it should have been a whole lot more about the drug use in San Francisco. It was just And I watched videos shoot up to 4,000 views, and then boom, it just drops off. Like, okay, that's how you get 4,000.
Dude, you're speaking my language. I've had that happen so many times. It's crazy. Thank you for the super chat. Great interview. Lots of Stanley fans. Hey, Stanley, for my final wrap here, I want to throw you some questions from locals.
Okay.
If you want to join my editorial board, go to alisonmorrow.locals.com. You get to put in questions ahead of time for interviews. We also have an editorial board once a week, meeting once a week. You can give me feedback and pitch story ideas and all that good stuff. We do it out with my horses. It's awesome. So does Stanley think KRON TV wouldn't let him keep the people behaving badly name and videos out of spite or because of their low revenue and they need to try to keep every penny they can? Also, being back in the Bay Area with the climate of crime, does Stanley think it's going to be more dangerous than before?
That's 2 questions or 3. The first question is, I think it was out of spite. So I'm going to say is I believe it was being spiteful and nothing more than that, because they never used it for anything other than, if they were really going to make revenue, then they would have created a whole new People Behaving Badly page with new people, new content. They just kept the same stuff up. So spite. The other question was dangerous. It is very dangerous. I try to limit my activities, and I try not to do it in areas where I could be attacked, or I have to actually hire a bodyguard, which is a lot of money for 8 hours to have somebody babysit you while you're out there trying to do your job with your camera equipment. So yes,
okay.
It's dangerous.
And then also, please ask Stanley about the motorcycle guy. You did that one. You did talk about the Golden Gate Bridge motorcycle guy, but what about Elmo?
Elmo was the guy in the BMW, the one that called me fat.
Okay.
It's on that video. So ironically, that video is the version of it from Jimmy Kimmel is on my TikTok page, which again is Stanley Roberts. Ironically, there's been a lot of comments about that one where people have posted cartoons, and they always remove me from the video. They add the cop talking, and I'm not even there. I'm just a camera guy.
Interesting.
So it's so funny that I've been pretty much wiped from that video over the years.
That's too bad. Okay, why did they do that? Personal motive, some form of revenge. Could we talk about that? Did they upload the videos on their own channels now, or do they just not want Stanley to have his material on his channel? Has he been in contact with KRON since the videos have been taken down?
Ironically, KRON had every single video that I had. The difference was that I used the video when it came straight from my laptop, and I didn't put all the graphics on. I started putting a little bug when people started stealing the videos. But every video that I've ever shot that wasn't personal or family, they already had. So they didn't need the videos. They just wanted the channel. So that's where that came from.
Sadly, you are left with a single option. Will you take legal action against the people who filed the wrongful copyright claims?
I can't file against anybody. You don't know who, you don't have the information to give you who it was. I mean, they literally made it a blank eraser. Imagine going to a piece of paper and it's just blank and there's no information. They tell you, well, give us the information on the page and we'll fix it. But there isn't. It's just a blank page.
So would you take legal action against Nexstar?
I tried to. I actually hired the same attorney but I was being charged $500 an hour.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
that, $7,000 into it, I realized that I couldn't maintain that.
Mm-hmm.
And they were like, "Where's our money?" And I had to finally use a credit card to pay them the money that I had. And then I decided I just can't continue this anymore. And it was just too expensive for me.
Yeah.
And even to read emails, it was $250.
Yeah. Lawyers are doing really well right now with everything that's going on in our country, I gotta say. Okay, from the San Francisco Bay Area, this is Costello. Love Stanley and can't wait to see his new stuff. So, all right, everybody. Well, make sure you're going to subscribe over at Stanley's page, Mr. Badley TV on YouTube. And he also has a link tree. You can support him at linktr.ee/Mr. Badley TV. Any final words, Stanley, before you go?
Well, everything being equal, I think the other question they had was, have I ever talked to KRON afterwards?
Oh,
yeah. They would never talk to me about it. It was always zero response. And I tried to use my agent, and instead of them saying we messed up, they said that if I hadn't talked badly about them, then nothing would be bad. But I mean, my whole job was to point out bad behavior. So why should I stop right there?
Mm-hmm.
That was my whole deal, was if you're doing something wrong, I'm going to show you what you did wrong and how we can correct it. And so they were upset and they were spiteful. And I think part of the deal was they were spiteful because I said I said it on live TV, and I still meant it, that had they not stolen my trademark, I might have stuck around. But because of that, Nexstar won't let anybody do a close anymore on live TV.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
That's awesome. What did you think of, did you see Ivory Hecker, the reporter in Houston, who said that she was being censored by her bosses during her live shot? She just blew up her live shot. Dude, that was classic. And now she's on her own. Of course, they fired her, but she was working for Fox O&O in Houston. And it was funny because she was out on a hot day for a heat wave story. And so they just had her out, with this sweaty air conditioning repairman guy behind her. And she's like, "Oh, yeah, here I am. It's really hot out. But first, I just want to let you know that Fox is censoring everything I say."
I saw that. Yeah.
Dude,
I never really, other than saying what I said there and talking to people who interviewed me, I love what I do. I've been, I've taught myself to do everything. It's just really hard when you try to do things the right way and then it comes back and bites you in the butt. And so I'm back in the Bay Area and I'm trying to branch out Mr. Badley TV. It's an expensive undertaking, and I just hope that people support what I do. And the more people I get to show up on YouTube, the better chance I have of not being so much shadow banned and watching my numbers just drop off out of clear blue sky. So I see them go for 4,000 and then I'm like, it's not like everybody just stopped watching.
Maybe, Stanley, you could do commentary on, you don't necessarily have to go out and shoot the videos. If there's people behaving badly around the country or around the world, you could just do live streams commenting about it. Maybe people would just like to hear your perspective on it.
Well, I have an idea though. And I want to license out Mr. Caught Misbehaving to TV stations across the country and let them follow the format that I've created.
Yeah, you could go around and teach them how.
Huh?
You could go around and teach them how, help them set
teach them how to do it. Exactly. And it would be great because when I had people behaving badly, there were TV stations that literally made their own channels up using the name, wait for it, People Behaving Badly. And the irony of it all was that, like, one guy in, I think, Cincinnati or whatever, or maybe in Texas, I don't remember where it was, but he got arrested for domestic violence. And I was like, well, okay, first rule of People Behaving Badly is you don't get caught, you don't get arrested, you don't do stuff that's going to compromise the brand.
You don't behave badly.
Yeah, you don't behave bad. And I always said this, and I'll end it with this, is that when you do a show called People Behaving Badly, you tend to attract people behaving badly.
Yeah, that's kind of weird, isn't it?
It's a self-fulfilling prophecy.
Yeah, or as Viva Fry says, confession through projection, I guess. I don't know. It's like you're attracted to doing it. Like how psychologists often have really dark sides to them because they And that's why they like working with people who are messed up, because they're really messed up and they want to work out their issues through their clients, you know, something like that. Okay, Stanley Roberts, thank you so much. I hope you'll come back sometime when there are people behaving badly. Maybe you can come back on and talk about the crazy stuff that's happening around us. I really appreciate your time, and I wish you the best. And I hope everybody goes support you. Again, go to Mr. Badly TV, and let me just pull up the link tree again, linktree/Mr. Badly. And we'll see you guys next time. Thanks again.
Thank you.